podcast where people reach their goals and develop confidence one mind shift habit at a time. Let's join our host, certified coach Christina.
Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Coach. I hope everyone has had a great week thus far. I'm excited to have you back. You all know that I was a former gymnast. I am now a gymnastics coach. And this episode is one of my favorites because it's all things gymnastics. When I was doing gymnastics, there weren't too many thrills and frills and thrills when we had our uniform. I guess during that time it was considered that because I had some wild and crazy leotards, let me tell you. As a coach, I get one of my responsibilities is to make sure that my athletes have a leotard that is going to accentuate their very best. There's all different types of body parts in gymnastics, and picking out a design, picking out the color, the patterns, it all does matter because the judges are looking at your gymnast and they're critiquing everything that they see. And believe it or not, there are some leotards that will actually show the gymnast in not such a flattering way. For example, I have some gymnasts who are extremely flexible and have beautiful lines. Those would be the gymnasts that could wear just about anything. And then I have the gymnasts who, depending on the event, maybe they can't keep their legs as straight, or maybe their body shape isn't and arms aren't doing what they're supposed to. Well, here's a little secret that I'm going to let out of the bag. That all can be camouflaged with the style of leotard that you purchase. Or you can really show it off by the style of leotard that you purchase. One of the greatest challenges of outfitting my athletes is the fact that I have so many body shapes, I have different ethnicities, and the hair color. Let's just talk about the hair color. So picking out your team colors, you have to take all of that into consideration. Fortunately, I don't do it alone. I have someone on my staff who actually does the designing, and she's designed our leotards for the last 15 plus years beautifully. We always are getting compliments. But after that, we go to a rep at the company who brings our idea into fruition. Well, on this episode of Conversations with Coach, I am so excited to be able to bring on this guest because she has embarked on a whole new adventure. She has her own leotard line, and I cannot wait to get more information about it. So if you know someone who has a gymnast and you are looking for leotards or team leotards, because it's about that time for us to get our competition leotards for the team, you're going to want to share this and call them and say, hey, the guest on Conversations with Coach is talking all things gymnastics apparel, so you want to tune in. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about her. Her name is Melanie Bell, and she is based out of Knoxville, Tennessee. She's a full-time graphic designer and now the owner and designer and creator of a brand new gymnastics apparel company called Bell Leotards. I want you to put some love in the chat and help me to welcome my guest, the owner of Bell Leotards, Melanie Bell. Hi, Melanie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining me here. And as I said to my audience, I am so excited to be talking about my favorite sport. I am so excited to be talking about gymnastics and the gymnastics leotards and just sharing that with everyone else, just fans or parents who have enjoyed gymnastics, but they may not really understand what all goes into making the gymnasts look as beautiful as they are. And I will tell you this, you have taken on a really big task in terms of breaking into the market of gymnastics apparel, and specifically competition leotards. If you don't mind, I would like for you to share with our audience just a little bit about your story.
Yeah. So growing up, I was always the artsy kid. I love drawing and painting and designing clothes and trying to invent things. And that's just kind of what I stuck with growing up. I wanted to be an animator at one point, a comic book artist, like something in that realm of things. And I ended up going to Carson University, which is in Jefferson City, Tennessee. And I was originally a photo major, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was just thinking that the path that I would go on is photography. And my freshman year, I had a graphic design class, and the professor, every time she would see my work, she's like, "Hey, maybe you should double major." I'm like, "No, I'm good. I'll stick with photography." And after a while, I fell in love with it. But then I also realized that I had been doing it like when I was younger. Do you remember the paint program on PCs?
Yes.
Yeah, I used to design flyers in that when I was younger, and I was like, "Oh, I can actually make a career out of this. Like, that's amazing." So I ended up switching that summer after my freshman year. I switched to graphic design, and I did not turn back after that. And I've been working as a full-time designer for quite a while now.
That is so awesome. It reminds me of my brother in our family. He is the artistic one, and he would do the same things. Now I'm going to date myself, but back during the time when newspapers were being thrown on your driveway, in one section of it, they had this, I don't know, sometimes it was a duck, sometimes it was something else. But they had a contest where you could redraw that and submit it. And then, you remember that?
I actually did. Dog. I remember seeing a commercial as well that was like, "Hey, draw this, you get like your kit." And I remember drawing it, and I vaguely remember some guy from the school or something visiting our house, and he was talking to my mom and dad about like planning something for me to like continue with this course, and we didn't do it, but I remember that. I forgot all about that though.
Yes, well, that's when you were talking, and you were talking about being younger and designing things and using the paint program on PCs, which most people are probably watching and going, what's that? But it made me think about my brother and how he would just pick up anything and look at it and then just draw it. And to this day, I am still amazed. Obviously, he's grown into bigger and better types of architectural designs because he does homes now. But that's where it started for him too, just having that love for creativity and to bring something to life. And that's really funny that when I mentioned it, you're like, "Yeah, I do. I remember that." Was there anyone else? Do you have any siblings or anything?
I have an older sister and two younger brothers, and I'm, of course, the second. And then the third is one of my brothers, and he's super, super artsy as well. So we get to collab on a lot of projects. And growing up, I always think back, my uncle was an artist. He was a painter. And I remember my grandmother, we called her Grand. She had all of his paintings, like huge paintings all over her house. And I remember getting printer paper and a marker and sitting in front of his paintings and trying to recreate them. And I would take them to him. It's like, "Oh, look what I did." And I'm sure it was terrible. He was always so encouraging. And I'll never forget my senior year at Carson Newman, I did a series of concert posters. I think I had about 35 of them. And he showed up to the exhibit. And he bought one of my posters. And he definitely meant a lot to me, for sure. And he pushed me as an artist, which is amazing. I will always cherish that.
That is wonderful. When you mentioned that your grandmother, that you feel like that's where it came from, and then an uncle. It makes me think of, I don't draw, I can't draw a straight line with a ruler, but don't tell anybody that. I create from a different perspective. If you give me something to do, I'm always going to be that one that's going to do it different from somebody else, and it's going to always have that little extra in it. And so I find my solace in being able to do that. So I'm known in my family as the event planner, the creator, that sort of thing. However, now that you mentioned that, my grandmother, she would take those books where it was just a bunch of lines, and you actually have to color the picture and bring it to life.
Yeah.
She would do that. And I'm like, how are you doing that? Like, I see nothing. And by the time she was finished with it, it was so beautiful. So I have huge respect for artists, designers. I know what I want. I can't always get there. And as I was sharing with the audience, as a director, having to come up with the leotards, that is a challenge. Fortunately for me, I have someone on my staff who has an eye for that. And so I can tell them what I like or what I'm looking for, and then they can do the design of it. I would like for you to share with the audience a little bit about your company, like from the very beginning.
Yeah. So when I graduated Carson University, my first like big girl full-time job was actually at a gymnastics apparel company that's pretty well known. And while I was there, I got to work with a lot of elite gymnasts and universities and coaches, choreographers to build and design like the perfect leotard, maybe for like a floor routine or something like that. And that's pretty much where I got my start. I was not a gymnast.
I was going to ask you that. Do you have anyone in your family that was or is?
You know what? When I was younger, of course, like I wanted to be an animator, but at one point I wanted to be a gymnast, either a gymnast or an ice skater, because I just found it so fascinating. Like it's just like mind blowing. And I just stuck with, the art path of drawing and designing and things like that. And it's so funny how the two worlds kind of like collided.
It is.
And so I was not a gymnast. I actually started working there as a digitizer, and I was the one that kind of like, once the designers were finished with the design, I would make the stone files for production. And that was what I did for a few months. And then they moved me over to designer. And that's when I got to work with a lot of really cool people. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with working with the gymnasts and working with the coaches and finding ways to bring their designs to life, or, I design something and then I take it to them. It's like, is this what you're looking for? How can we change it to make it right for you and right for the gymnast? And I loved it. And I love pink and sparkles. So it was perfect for me. It really was. And I really enjoyed it for sure.
You're talking about the sparkles. Nowadays, it's the more bling, the more shine, the shinier those jewels are, and as many as you can get on the leotards. That's the thing, because under the lights, most competitions are done in arenas that have the really big bright lights, and the way that the crystals pop off of those lights, I've seen some leotards that it looks like someone tripped and spilt the whole box of crystals on it because they're so brilliant. However, when you are either watching it on TV or you're there watching it, your attention is drawn to them. So good, bad, or indifferent, they're bringing a lot of attention onto themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to ask you, so you got your beginning at another well-known company, and who is the most notable gymnast that you have designed a leotard for?
Actually, I designed a lot for Grace McCullum. Yeah, a lot of my designs were for her, and then there was it's so funny. I'll get on Instagram and I'll see a design that I did. And
Oh, how surreal is that?
yeah, like it's so random. I'll just open it up and it's maybe a tank or a competition lei. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I designed that, And I'll never forget watching her perform in one of the first designs that I did for her. And I don't even know if she knows that I was the one that, that did it. But yeah, I mainly worked with her coach while I was designing for her,
Mhm.
and Dominic Zito as well. We collaborated a lot. But yeah, I'll never forget the first time I saw her compete on
Mhm.
NBC wearing one of my leotards, and I was sitting in front of the TV with my mom, like, oh my gosh, I did that one. Like it was the best feeling. It was really cool. And
That is so awesome. I kind of like when I'm watching it on TV, I'm kind of like, they need to give credits to these designers, on the designers and the choreographers, because these girls look amazing. And then, however, you'll go to some of their, like you said, social media, and they will pop, if they're posing in it,
yeah,
they'll give the credit, but it always goes to the company, not the designer. And I'm like, who is the person that did that? So we
yeah,
need to work on that. We need to work on making sure that you
I know.
designers get your due credit, because you all are working hard to make these girls look fabulous. And here's another question for you.
Yeah.
You said that you got to work with a gymnast coach
Mhm.
pretty close. And I mean, for those who don't know, Grace McCullough is elite gymnast, Olympian, and she's now where? At the University of Florida? Do I have that right?
I can't remember. I believe so. I believe so.
Mm-hmm. And so, how is it working with the coaches? What is that experience
It's
like?
actually a lot of fun. It really is. There's a lot of ideas being thrown out. It's very, and when you're working with them, I love to sketch. I love to sketch out a design beforehand,
Okay.
like pencil and paper,
Okay.
just like super old school with that. So I try to stick with that, and then I'll kind of show it to them. Is this something that you like? And then I'll mock it up in the computer, and
Right.
then a lot of times they'll kind of like sit behind, or around and watch the screen move and add, back straps or like, cutouts or like
Yeah.
something. And it was actually a lot of fun. I think out of everyone, I honestly have to say the person that I absolutely loved working with was Dominic Zito. He was so much fun. I worked with him quite a bit actually when I was, at the other company. And
Mhm.
he would call me up, or we would like hop on a call and design something, or, sit together and just kind of sketch through. And it was so much fun working with him. He was really
That is so. For the sake of my audience who may not be well into gymnastics and they don't recognize the names, let them know who that is. For
He is a choreographer. Yeah, for a gymnast.
Mhm. He's a
one of
very
the
good,
one of he's a
very
big deal.
good choreographer.
Big deal.
He
Yeah.
is amazing. I love to see the floor routines that he puts together. So he's really good.
He's a big deal for sure.
So as a coach, and I did mention this when I was speaking about you in the beginning, it is a huge responsibility to a look at your team. You're looking at all the body shapes. You're looking at the different ethnicities. You're looking at the hair color. Share with the audience what that is like in terms of, maybe there might be some coaches watching, and maybe you can give them some tips on, this is what you want to think about when you are designing your competition leotard.
Yeah, honestly, like my big thing is like the fit. Like the fit is like the most important. Like that's what I, think of, because I don't want, these girls going out with the wedgies. I hate to say it, but like that's a big deal, And like you
Yes.
were saying earlier, like different body types, making sure you have the right size is just like,
Mhm.
even if that's ordering sizers, like see if, the company that you're working with, see if they have sizing kits, because you
Mhm.
want to be able to, make sure all the gymnasts are comfortable and they're not
Mhm.
constantly like tugging at something, or, so
Because
that's
there's deductions for that. Yeah, you're right.
for sure. So that's my big thing.
I agree with you on that. That's probably the most challenging part of ordering competition leotards is getting the size right. And these leotards, these competition special, they call them special ordered leotards. You're not going into the leotard store and picking something off the rack. You can, but most gyms don't. They're going to alter that stock leotard to fit them and make it unique. To that point, can you share with the audience a recommendation as it comes to getting the correct size? I've got parents who will tell me, I want to get it for room to grow. I don't want to have to buy this again next year. And I've also gotten sizers from a company, and the fabric of the sizers was different than the fabric of our competition leotard, and it was a bust.
Well, for one, definitely when measuring, I've had people that will measure just like across. You have to measure around, always measure around. And you want to make sure, like, with the fabric, the material, and does it have a liner built in? Like, things like that will change the fit. So definitely figure, not only order the sizers, but also work with the rep or the company or someone to figure out to make sure you're getting what you're paying for.
Absolutely. In terms of, what do I say to my parents who are like, I want it to have growing room, and we know what that looks like in a leotard. It doesn't put the gymnast in their best light.
I always say, if you're in between sizes, size up. And that's just kind of like, don't get too big, because that'll just cause more problems. But you also don't want to get too small. So if you're in between sizes, I recommend sizing up always.
Absolutely. Now, you've already shared with us that, and we're not naming names, that you were a designer for another well-known leotard company. I would like for you to share with the audience, how and when did you decide to go solo?
Oh gosh. Well, it actually took a while, honestly, because I worked for this company, oh my gosh, probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And I'm just now starting, and while I was there, it was something that, you see your designs on TV or, in a magazine or, something like that. And it's like, I would love to do that. I would love to, have it with my own logo on it, or my name on it or something, as a designer and an artist, like, you're sketching it out and you're watching it just like turn into this like garment. I would love to do that, but I don't know how, like, I see everything that goes on in the back because I'm working for this company.
Right.
And I see how, like, it's a lot. It is a lot. And it's like, I would love to do it, but it'll probably never happen, And
Oh, wow.
I ended up leaving there. I ended up turning in my resignation, and I decided to go on and just keep being a graphic designer. And I worked for a lot of random places as a graphic designer. I still work full-time as a graphic designer for an amazing company. And I worked at a nonprofit, which was really cool. Actually, COVID happened.
Yes, it did.
It happened, and one day I walked into work and I was working, and they're like, we have to cut positions, and yours is one of them.
Oh.
So I had to walk out. And what's so funny, like, looking back, that happened on a Friday. That Sunday, I had a trip planned with my boyfriend, who's now my husband, but we had a trip planned to Colorado, and I had no idea he was proposing on that trip. So I right before I got engaged on this amazing trip. But yeah, so I continued working as a graphic designer, and I missed it. to be honest, I missed it because I enjoy it so much. I enjoy working with gymnasts and coaches and just like, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. And again, it's just like, you think about it and it's like people telling me you should start your own line, It's like I would if I knew how, but I never thought it would happen. So I just kind of like pushed it to the side and you just keep working. And I don't know. You open Instagram and you see your designs pop up and it makes you think about it again.
Yeah.
And eventually, like my husband, I started another business, an online boutique that I had for a little minute, and it didn't do too well, in all honesty. It was kind of like, how some things knock you down, you just have to get back up.
That's right.
It was one of those things where it's like, that probably was not like, I wasn't as passionate about it, in all honesty, because you just see like boutiques everywhere, and my style was all over the place. And maybe one person will like maybe preppy or like neutral color. So it was a lot. It was a lot. And I lost interest in it, honestly. I couldn't get into it. And I thought about just ending the business.
Oh.
And because that was the only thing that I could think of to do, that I knew how to do. I mean, of course, I always wanted to do leotards, but I just, you just don't think that you know how to make it happen.
Right.
And my husband, who's also an entrepreneur, he's like, figure it out. It's like, if that's what you want to do, figure it out. I'm like, you're right. And I try to do research. I try to just like dig as much as I could and figure out how to make this a thing. And here we are.
Yes, here we are. It is, one thing to have an idea.
Yeah.
And it's another thing to bring it to life for everyone else to see what it is that's your passion, your idea. What is one of the things that, because you mentioned, I didn't know what I was doing. I wanted to do it. I just didn't know how to do it. And then, of course, you got the encouragement from your husband who said, just figure it out. Since you've been on this path of being solo, what is the one thing as it relates to starting your small business that you've learned that you did not know before you actually started?
One thing about me is I like figuring things out on my own, and just, I will dig and dig and dig until I can, but at some point you have to ask for help, ask someone, maybe someone knows how to, press rhinestones, and you don't. You have to ask. And that's something that I've learned so much. Don't be afraid to ask. If you have a question and you don't know the answer to it, but someone else they might not, but they might, So you have to ask. Don't be afraid to ask someone for
Exactly, because it is the question that you don't ask that could be the question that just opens everything up for you.
Exactly. It could change everything.
So you mentioned that you've been planning about 5.5, 6 years for this. And you are ready to launch, like literally ready to launch.
Yeah, launching tomorrow.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. When did you decide that, okay, I know enough, I'm doing enough, I need to put a date on this launch?
I honestly don't know if I can say, because I was planning on launching back in March or May. It was May I was planning on launching. And, there's always hiccups. There's always bumps in the road, and it pushed it back, to June. And then here we are, July. And it's like, okay, we're ready. We're ready. All of our ducks are in a row. Something could go wrong like tonight.
Right.
There's always going to be something. I was talking to my husband about it last night. It's like, especially as a business owner, like a challenge brings more challenges. Like that's just
Mhm.
something that will always, be there. And you just have to like keep moving, keep pushing, and
Mhm.
here we are. It's just it's time. It's now time to make it happen.
Oh, I love it. You mentioned that during you had that setback when you thought that you were going to do it March or May and it did not happen. What was the thing that, how did it make you feel? Like, what was going through your head? It was like, oh, wow, that didn't work.
You know, I I felt like I had to launch in May. I felt like I had to launch, and that put a lot of pressure on me, to be honest. And I got more stressed. I'm like, and it's just making up like putting these deadlines on things, and it's like, I don't have to launch right now. I don't have to get stressed over that. I have time, it's been 5, 6 years, it's like I have
Yes.
time. So I try not to, you know, have so much pressure in setting a date and then,
Mhm.
something goes wrong. I had one photo shoot planned, one big photo shoot, and
Mhm.
then that ended up having to turn into two photo shoots because of
Right.
time with the venue and like, models and things like that. And that's not what I planned for. That's not what I wanted.
Of course not.
Yeah, I ended up changing the photo shoot date the first time, I think 2 or 3 times because of just like, you know, just time, making time for a lot of, things to come in and making sure the models are good and the photographer and the videographer. A week before the shoot, my videographer found out that he realized that he double booked. So we didn't have a videographer. Thankfully, my husband has experience with it, so we were good. But it's like little things like that.
Yes.
But yeah, it's easy to get stressed. It's easy to
Yeah.
freak out with those little things and the big things. But I think it all just depends. It all goes back to how you handle it.
Mhm.
There were so many times where I could say, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do this. This is just ridiculous, at this point. But I am passionate about designing,
Mhm.
and I never want to get like, 50 years down the road and it's like, well, what if I did it? Or what if that is what always like pushes me. And if it was easy, everyone would do it, that's with anything. So it's just,
Exactly.
there's hiccups. There will always be hiccups, but you just
Mhm.
have to get back up and push through it.
Thank you for that advice because I'm quite sure that there is someone who's watching this or maybe watch the replay of it and they might be in that position. They might be where I've tried everything and now the things that I'm trying aren't working and they're literally ready to throw in the towel. And you sharing that is going to give someone a boost of confidence to say, the show must go on. I want this bad enough that these little hiccups are not going to stop me no matter what. And I think the other thing too that I really love about your story is the fact that you that COVID happened because COVID happened to all of us and it set you back, but and you were told, hey, this job isn't going to be going on anymore. But you then turn to your passion. It's like, well, I don't want to not be able to do this. How can I do this in a different way? And there were a lot of good things, a lot of bad things that came from COVID, but there were a lot of good stories that came out of COVID, and especially on the entrepreneur, and especially for Black women,
Yeah.
it's very exciting to be able to do that and to be a representative to the young girls who are looking up to you. Which brings me to a point. I've been looking and following on your social media, and I actually know some of your I know some of your models. They've been clients of mine.
Oh,
Yes.
that's awesome. Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, in fact, when one of them reshared, I think she might have done it yesterday, and she reshared her and one of your leotards. I was like, oh my gosh, she looks so beautiful. And I'm just so excited that for Black and brown girls, that they have someone that they can look up to and aspire to be like, and aspire to want to wear your leotards. It's just awesome. Do you work with colleges?
Not yet. Oh my gosh, I think about 3 months ago, I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee. So I drove to Nashville and I got to meet with Corinne Tarver. Corinne, I'm sorry, Tarver. And it was really cool. It was really cool meeting with her at Fisk.
Yes.
Yeah, that is definitely something that I want to do. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Right now, we're doing the practice tanks, and I would love to work with gyms and teams and get some competition Leos out there.
Oh, that is amazing. Yes, I'm actually going to be going to Fisk next week. Brown Girls Do Gymnastics is doing their conference/camp there, their high performance camp there, and I'm one of their clinicians to work with the parents as well as with the athletes. And so I am super excited to be able to see Corinne. I haven't seen Corinne since she was here at the University of Georgia. I remember her competing at the University of Georgia. I was there at the same time, and just seeing her get to this elevation and being the first one, and to have it at
huge.
It's huge. It is so huge, and I'm so excited for her. And I can't wait to be able to talk with her a little bit when I'm up there. So speaking of that, do you yourself go to the conferences and set up inside of their expo?
That is definitely something that I am planning on starting to do. I knew about the conference, but I didn't know that you could go in and set up until last minute. So I unfortunately will not be there today, but I will definitely be at the next one. I will make sure I'm at the next one for sure.
That is great. And I know the governing body for gymnastics is USA Gymnastics, and they actually have a national conference every year. In fact, I'm going to be going to that one next month in Tampa. And so you're interested in doing things along that line as well?
Oh, most definitely. I love seeing people and talking to people. So I think that would be so much fun to, see everyone in person and kind of hang out.
Well, you just let me know if there's anything that I can do to help you to open up those doors or to get there, or if you want to send me some information that I can take and maybe just leave around in a room.
Gosh, thank you. Oh, gosh.
I am happy to do that. I mean, I'll be there anyway, and your leotards are beautiful, and I want to make sure that you get out there. I will tell you this is not the year for us to change our leotards, because we did it last year. And for anyone that's watching, you don't change your competition leotards every year on the level that I'm on. The elite gymnasts have a plethora of leotards, but for the levels that I coach, no, the parents are not too kind. They're upset about doing it every 2 years. However, that seems to be the going thing because fabrics may not be available anymore, or things beyond their control. So I will let you know that after this year, we will be getting in touch with you for you to be able to do a design for us. I'm really excited and happy about that. In the meantime, I know what I wanted to ask you. With our rec classes, we do an annual end of the year school year show. Do you do any designs for that?
Yeah, for sure. I am open to doing anything and everything.
Then that's all I needed to know, because we're starting to plan for that. Even though it won't happen until next year, we start planning in August for our show in April, because it takes that much time. You got to get the right leotard, because the parents put their kids in the show because they want the leotard. So I'm excited to be able to get to work with you. Before we wrap up, I'm going to allow you to share anything that you want about yourself or your company.
Well, we are launching July 16th at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So that's definitely something that I am super excited about. But one thing that I wanted to say, and I kind of like mentioned it a little bit with like my husband, but like to everyone listening, the people that you keep around you matter. That is something that I wanted to tell everyone, because your friends, your family, make sure you have a supportive group around you, because it helps a lot.
Absolutely. And I agree 1,000% with you, because sometimes without them, it would be complete silence. You have
Yes.
no one cheering for you. You
Yes.
have no one encouraging you. You have no one saying, hey, have you thought about this? Or helping you to see it from a different perspective. I am on board with that 1,000%. Melanie, we can, gymnastics, I can talk about this until the cows come home. However, we are at the point where we're going to wrap it up, and I do a call to action with my listeners. And everyone, don't worry if you don't have pen or paper. I will put this information in the show notes, and you'll be able to refer back to it. You can find Melanie in her leotard company, and we even failed to say what that was. Shame on us. We got so caught up in other stuff. Her company is Bell Leotards. Her last name and Leotards with an S. And she is on all of the social media right now: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. Just put in @Bell Leotards and you will be able to find her. You can also visit her website and just peruse and look through at this email address. It's Bell Leotards, making it all easy for you to remember. And I want you all to share this information. As I said earlier, check if you're a parent watching this and you know that your team is getting ready to order new leotards, give Melanie a shout and just say, hey, I watched you on the podcast and my girls are having to pick new leotards, and put those coaches in touch with her, because her designs are phenomenal. I mean, let's face it, she's designed for Grace McCullum, so you know for a fact that she is amazing. And Melanie, I do one thing with my listeners, or for my listeners, and I do this with my guests. Before I let you get out of here, we're going to do final thoughts. And as it relates to mindset and having mindset shift, what is it that you want to share with the listening audience as it relates to either business or selecting leotards?
With business, it is hard. It never gets easier. There's always going to be problems, bumps in the road, hiccups. It's kind of like taking 2 steps forward to get knocked 10 steps back. Right. And you just have to get used to it. You have to fight through it. And that's something that I am really, really passionate about, making sure people are just like, keep going. You have to keep going. Don't stop.
Right. Very good. Thank you so very much for coming on. I appreciate you. And like I said, we can talk more. We definitely will talk more, because I'm going to reach out to you for my show leotard. So we'll be in touch with each other quite a bit. And I just want to thank you again for being my guest. And I'm looking forward to actually having you back maybe in a few months, so you can share with everyone how it's going. How does that sound?
Sounds great. Sounds great. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. I'm going to say goodbye to my guests, and I'll be right with you. And there you have it. I told you at the very beginning that we were going to be talking about a subject that I absolutely love, and I can go on and on and on about it. It's important when you are an athlete that you are in a uniform that you feel comfortable in, also that you feel proud to be in. And what better way to make all of that come to life than actually working with not just only the designer, but the owner of the company. I'll let you in on a little secret. Pretty soon, she won't be able to take these orders. She's going to have somebody else that you talk to. So you need to get in now while you can have that one-on-one connection with the designer and the owner of the company. It is a special, unique thing. I want to remind you that you can follow me on all of my social media. There it is for you. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn And I mentioned in a previous episode that I'm getting my Pinterest account going. It has a little on it right now, but not anything like it's going to be. So I want you to share and encourage your family and friends to follow me. Here's my website. I would like for you to go on the website and schedule your free clarity call. Maybe you're an athlete and you're struggling with performance issues, whether it's you've got skills and you lost them, or you think you lost them, or maybe there's a particular fear that you're working through on a skill that you've always done and it's just got you frustrated. Don't be frustrated. Go on this website and schedule your free 15-minute clarity call, and we'll discuss it. And I'll give you some different options to choose from to move forward from that. And it doesn't matter what level athlete you are. It doesn't matter what sport you are. I work with all athletes at all levels, from the professional to the emerging. And I am excited to be able to work with you. And I look forward to hearing from you. Until next week, you know where to find me. Same time, same places. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Coach. Please be sure to follow Coach Christina on all of her social media platforms. And remember, life is only as good as your mindset.